Good morning, friends. Welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today, I am excited to kind of introduce to you a new project that we are going to begin today here at the house. This is going to be a pretty major project. If you know Creekside, you know that we always have something up our sleeve that we're always planning to tweak, whether it is here at the house in the gardens or at the garden center or in production. There's always something happening. So we're going to focus a little bit here at the house for the next couple of months and really going to just completely overhaul the cottage garden, the garden boxes, what I call Hydrangea Hill. The whole area is going to get a makeover. So before we get into all the details, let me just kind of share with you where we are going to be and kind of give you a perspective of this space. A little bit of history with it is also. So we call this the cottage garden, right? Because we have two flower beds here where I say that they are sisters. They're not identical twins, where they have a lot of the same plants or the same type of plants that go through this space. But again, they are not identical in shape or size or even the plants that are offered. Then behind that, we have the garden boxes. We have 5 raised beds, boxes that you may want to call them, where the original intent, of course, was to grow vegetables. And I have kind of, this year they're definitely neglected. Everything that you see here is volunteers. So even like this one bed that has all the tomatoes, those are heirloom tomatoes from seeds from last year's plants. And then even here with the zinnias, those were all volunteers from seeds from last year's zinnias. So I truly have not done anything here other than try to kind of maintain it. But as you can see, these garden boxes are falling apart. They've been here we began this project, I believe, in late winter of 2017. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we had the garden boxes here and then what I call Hydrangea Hill. So Hydrangea Hill, of course, has the little lime hydrangeas in the front. We have the Age of Night hibiscus in the middle, and then that back there in the back are the firelight hydrangeas, and then of course the chicken coop is back there as well. So let me go back through and let me give you a little bit of history of this space. So it was in late 2017 into early 2018 where we created these spaces, because when we have been in our house for 20 years, so we moved in, built our house, moved in 2004, and this whole space, right, has gone through several transformations as we try to figure out how to landscape it, because it is on quite a slope, horrible, like true red clay soil, zero organic material, because it is on a slope. So over the years, all the rains would just naturally just wash away any kind of great topsoil. So you were left with this just really compacted red clay soil. I think when we first moved in, the whole area was grass. Then we put in some larger rig beds. Then we're like, okay, that's just too much work when you had all these babies, you know, and then we put it back in grass and they're like, okay, we want to do something with it. So we just kind of go back and forth and back and forth. Landed on this and designed this in, like I said, 2017-18, that we have a video that we did with Jerry where he was kind of introducing, and you can see like raw, like it was raw. It is crazy how much this has changed. We learned a lot. We originally put landscape fabric down on the cottage garden, trying to prevent wash from coming down. And we planted the perennials in there and everything. After about 2 years, I realized why landscape fabric is a horrible idea in your flower beds. It was literally strangling my plants. So Mimi and I came through here one winter and ripped it all out. It was a major ordeal. Ripped it out, then the plants really started to flourish because they could grow and they could get the organic material. So we learned from our mistakes, but that was when we were putting all of that together, put in the garden boxes. And then you've been with us, you know, a lot as this whole area has developed over those last 6 years, right? And things, you know, gardens are always changing. Well, have thoroughly loved this space. I love this garden. It is high visibility because, as you can see, you know, it is right along our driveway, right? So when you come down, of course, the house is right there. I've told you many times that this window right there is the window above my kitchen sink. So you know you spend a lot of time at your kitchen sink. So I see this all the time, and we have thoroughly enjoyed it. However, we knew that these garden boxes were going to need to be redone. We built these ourselves. They have served us really, really well. They have given us loads of vegetables, loads of flowers. I mean, just have been such a great experience in having, you know, garden boxes here. But they are falling apart, right? We knew that this was a time that we needed to come in and take care of them. And then this is the flower bed, the garden box. If you will remember, we had that invasive weed dodder, D-O-D-D-E-R. It came in from some of the seeds that I had gotten, some vegetable seeds that I had gotten, and it can be a quite invasive weed because it's a parasitic weed. So I wasn't growing anything in this. That's why we have zinnias in here, is because I was able to start them from seed and then put them in, and I was using a pre-emergent in the flower bed in the garden box so that this dodder weed would not, you know, take place. So we need to get rid of that soil because the dodder seeds can stay dormant for like years, and obviously this is not something that we want to have in our gardens. So we knew that this was happening and we needed to take care of this. So around that time, the Lord's provisions, the company Vago contacted me and were like, hey, we would love to work with you. We've got some garden boxes, this new design that's coming out with their garden boxes. You know, would you be interested in us sending you some of these and you putting them in your garden and using them and talking about them? And I was like, well, actually, I would love to, because this is the perfect timing. We need to redo them. Of course, Vago is wildly popular and very well-known company that does all these great garden products. And so what they did is they sent me 5 boxes to replace these 5 boxes. It is a new line of their garden boxes. It is the modern garden boxes. Their traditional ones have more of a corrugated, like a ripple to them. These modern ones are very sleek. So they're very, they're kind of a matte finish. We're doing the midnight blue, and they're just straight sides, beautiful rectangular, and they come in, of course, different shapes and sizes and all this. But another thing that I knew with these garden boxes, it says, as you can see, they're what? I don't know, 12 inches tall, maybe? Is that a 12-inch board, 10-inch board? And so it can be a little cumbersome to like work in the flower beds, because basically you just have to sit on your knees and work it. So the great thing too about these, look at that, can y'all see that hummingbird at the salvia? Sorry, and the agastache. Oh, I don't want to bother her. But anyway, so we'll just watch the hummingbirds. So the modern boxes, they come in different sizes and heights. So I got the extra tall, and this is, I believe it's 32 inches tall, and whoop, about got buzzed. And so the, so distracting right here because the hummingbirds love this garden. 32 inches tall and basically about the same size as these guys. So we're like, okay, so we're going to take out these boxes and then we're going to put in the new boxes. Now, if you know my husband at all, you know that when he's like, well, if we're going to do that, let's do this, because he's always wanted to redo this area. So I'm going to try to translate our vision and the project to you so that you can understand what's going to happen. So basically, we're going to demolish this whole entire area, and we're starting completely fresh. The cottage garden itself is not going to be under construction per se, but we may need to definitely maybe cut back some plants, move some plants, kind of things like that. So here we go. Jenny's going to do her best to explain what's going to happen. So all of the garden boxes are going to come out. They're going to be completely gone. We're going to remove them. That'll probably happen today. Remove everything in here. Our unique stone with the pedestals and the urns, they're going to be moved and taken out temporarily. They're going to come back into the garden once it is finished, but they're coming out. We will remove the larger river rock right here. We're going to try to save that. There is landscape fabric under there, so it'll be easy to gather it. This is the same rock that we use at the nursery, so we're going to save that. But we're going to completely excavate this area. We're going to cut out all of the little limes and the edge of night hibiscus. So we are going to cut into this hill so that we can extend the area where the garden boxes are. So this entire hill is going to be cut out all the way up to about right here. So forgive me with the sun, y'all. Right here. We will then put in a retaining wall so that we can hold back this hill, because this is a pretty steep hill. Like, it, even just to walk it is quite challenging sometimes. And so that's going to come back, have a retaining wall. We have a crepe myrtle right here, and y'all, I've never liked this crepe myrtle. We didn't buy this crepe myrtle. It was a mistake. We had from the crepe myrtles at the front of the house. We have 3 white. They're the Natchez. When we bought it from the nursery, they were dormant. They weren't blooming. And then this one has just started, and it turned out it was a pink crepe myrtle. So we dug it up and moved it and brought it here. I've never liked this crepe myrtle. I just don't like it. So this whole area is going to come out. The crepe myrtle is going to come out as well. So right now, where I am standing, it will be where the retaining wall is. So ultimately, the retaining wall will be right here, and then just on this side will be at grade, and it will be completely flat all the way to the cottage garden. So we are going to be using the Belgard products. We are big fans of the Belgard products, the hardscaping. That is what we have at our backyard patio. So we will be using the Castle Manor Grana stone, the walls, and we're going to use the Oxford color. So Oxford is more of a light gray, different color than what's on the back patio, but here it'll make sense. And that Oxford and that gray with that midnight blue garden boxes is going to be stunning. So that is what we're going to use. So we will have, there's going to be a lot of hardscaping up here, y'all. So that whole wall will come basically where you can see the unique stone bench. So from here, the crepe myrtle is gone all the way down, and then it will tie in back here into the hill. At that point, we're going to install steps. So you'll have steps from the level patio up. There'll be a landing, and then more steps to go to the chicken coop. So that's going to have our access. That will be our main access as far as a walking path to the chicken coop will be from the garden boxes patio. Now, we're going to have to raise up the current level of this pad because there's a lot of soil. There's a lot of elevation difference between what's up here and what's down here. So along the back side of the cottage garden, you can see that we have the metal edging. We put the metal edging there so that it would keep the decorative stone, the gravel, in the garden boxes and not going into the cottage garden. Here we will use that same Castle Manor Grana in Oxford, and we're going to build a small retaining wall. Think about the size of what we have at the signature garden, right? So it'll be several blocks high with a cap right here because of keeping the grade here. I really don't know what the grade will be and how much we have to bring it up. Once we get into demo and moving some soil around, then we will figure that out. So there will be a retaining wall right here where the edging is, and then of course that same wall will continue on this side and then go down and tie into where the loropetalums are there. Obviously, brand new steps. So these steps, bless their hearts, y'all. They're not even, they work. I mean, you can easily, safely get up here, but if you can see, I don't know if the camera is going to show this, but can you see where this rock right here is nice and gray? And then when we come down, can you see that this has more of an orange tone to it? That's because anytime we get rain, we get water, whatever may happen, this fills up with water. And so that red is from our red clay. It's not attractive whatsoever. And so these steps also are kind of falling apart. So it is time to get rid of them. So they will be hardscaped as well. with the patio pavers and such, and then coming up each side of those steps will be a small little wall. So you'll have, this will be completely enclosed with those pavers. Now, so my sweet husband, because he has great visions, like he is the dreamer for sure. His idea, which I never even thought of, but I absolutely love. Now, Johnny's kind of in the way down there. You can see, I don't know if you can see Brenna, she's sitting in there. She wants to go for a ride. But again, we have the metal edging here to hold back any kind of the soil, the mulch from the cottage garden, and even down. So it goes all the way down past Johnny. And that's really just to kind of separate the gravel from the grass, right? To keep those two separate. Where you see that metal edging, again, we're going to put a small retaining wall. Very much, again, like what we have at the Signature Garden. So this will be probably around 3 blocks high, possibly 4 with the first layer really being sunk down. Jerry says he wants the wall to be substantial enough so that when we get deliveries, whether it's UPS, FedEx, Walmart, Amazon, you know, because we're like everybody else, we get all the deliveries, and they turn around right here. And sometimes they're not really paying attention and they'll pop up and be on the grass. So he wants the wall to be substantial enough so when they're backing up, they're like, oh, there's a wall right there, and if I run into it, I'm gonna mess up my truck. So just a, you know, a little deterrent to keep them in the lines. I mean, my gosh, we got plenty of gravel for them to turn around. So not only will that retaining wall go all the way down, but it will come all the way through here, give us a nice hard edge. We're not going to really have to lose a lot of the cottage garden. There may be a couple of plants that I have to relocate here on the edge. Like for example, my poor Shasta daisies that need to be deadheaded, but this may have to be pushed back a little bit. That's totally fine, right? See the Monardas kind of spreading, so that just may have to be moved. Babe may have to go back a little bit, but that wall will continue all the way around the back side of this massive loropetalum. So it will then just kind of naturally then we'll just stair step it down and it will end behind the loropetalum. What's also really, really fun that Jerry had the idea, he said, well, since we're gonna have this, you know, small block wall coming down here, the length of it, he said, let's go ahead and add in some more flower beds. So that is what we're going to do. So we'll have, the wall will be here, like I said, 3 to 4 blocks high, just that will be determined as we go through with a cap on it. And then we are going to put a flower bed, maybe 2 feet wide, 3 feet wide from the edge into the grass. So that flower bed will tie into the existing cottage garden down here. So the entire length of this section will have a 2 to 3 foot flower bed that goes the entire length of this space. So I'm going to try to back up here and kind of give you an idea. See Miss Brenna, she's ready to go for a ride. She said, Mama, aren't we going for a ride? Bless her little heart. She is not loving this weather. We're having such crazy temperatures and dew points, and it is insane. It feels like we live in South Florida right now. And so German Shepherds would prefer negative 10 degrees than 100 degrees for sure. So she's not a happy dog right now. But the wall will start here, the flower bed will start there, and go all the way down to those loropetalums and tie the whole space in. So that is kind of the big picture of this space. Why are we doing this now, right? Because Megan was like, but Mama, you know, the garden is looking so pretty, and why are you gonna, you're like, all your zinnias, you're gonna lose your zinnias, and the tomato plants are just getting ready to put on some tomatoes. Like, why are you doing this right now? Well, that's a great question. And some of you may be asking that same question, is like, why are we gonna do this now in the summer when all the plants are looking great and so forth and so on? Well, it's about timing. So this is, quote, one of the slower times for us here at Creekside. We're not actively growing like, you know, tons of plants. We're just kind of in that maintenance mode right now. So this is the perfect time for us, project-wise, labor-wise, to begin working on this project. Also, you know that Jerry does love a good yard of pretty grass. And here in North Carolina, where we are, we Jerry and I have chosen that we like to grow fescue grass. So fescue is a cool weather grass, meaning that it stays green all winter long and it performs best in cooler temperatures. If it's gonna look bad, it's gonna be in the heat of the summer because it starts to go dormant. It's a little bit too hot. In order to maintain the fescue grass, every fall you come through, you plug your yard, meaning you aerate, plug, you put little holes all in your yard. You go ahead and put out the new seed, you put out your fertilizer, and that is when you are growing the new grass. And so that grass will then sustain you for the next year. So in order to maintain a really nice, healthy yard of fescue grass, you do that yearly. You plug it, you seed it, and then you've got gorgeous grass for the next year and so on. So obviously you want more, the more fescue you have, the less weeds you have in the yard. So there is a window of time in the fall where you want to do that. You want to do it where it's cool, yet not crazy cold, not too early because then it's too hot and then you don't have any rain, but you have to time it just right so that the temperatures are right and hopefully you're going to get consistent rain to germinate the seed. This project needs to be completely done by that time because we're going to have complete and utter demo in this space. So over the next couple of months, basically we're going to lose all of this grass because of the construction, the equipment, moving soil, all of that. So this whole area is going to get completely destroyed. Once the project is complete, then what our timing will be that we can then come back through, reseed it, get a good stand of grass before the real cold of winter hits. So that is why we are doing this now. Now, one thing that I did forget to tell you that I am really excited about. I think this is going to be a really cool thing that we're doing, completely new that we've never tried before. So what are we going to use as basically the quote ground cover here in the new area with the garden boxes? Right now, we do have that decorative pea gravel, right? That little tiny gravel has the landscape fabric underneath there. This is why I tell people that landscape fabric, a lot of times people put landscape fabric down to stop the weeds coming. This area is my biggest weed seed area. Like if I do not stay on top of the weeds in here, then it is insane. And you can see that it's time for me to come in here and weed. You can see that the landscape fabric, like that little black, that is landscape fabric. Look right beside of it. It is a weed. These weeds are growing right on top of the landscape fabric because if you look down in there, right, this is thick right here. Oh my gosh. All right, there's a lot of gravel, but that does show that the gravel does move. And so these weeds are growing right on top of landscape fabric and gravel. It is the biggest pain. So I do use a pre-emergent sometimes in here to help maintain these weeds. What we're gonna do is we are going to install what you call permeable pavers. So these permeable pavers, again, we're going to go with the ones from Belgard, the aqua line, and this color will be Hatteras. So it has still the gray in there, but it'll have a little bit of blue and a little bit of brown. So the permeable pavers are a great way that you can use them on patios. You can use them on pool decks. You can use them on driveways and parking lots. Like we have a local coffee shop that their entire parking lot is with the permeable pavers. You do this to help with the water flow. The pavers themselves do not absorb the water, but the way that they're designed, you have a wider channel between the blocks, and you don't use the locking sand. You actually use a type of gravel, and there's this whole system so that when the water flows over those pavers, between the pavers is that channel and the water goes down in that. So this helps prevent runoff. It helps prevent standing water. because the ground absolutely, will soak it in and absorb it. And so it's a great, neat way to help control water and be very conscious of how you're directing water flow. Because if we did solid pavers here, like we did on the patio, we absolutely would have probably major runoff and or standing water after rains. And having those permeable pavers, all that water just soaks back down into the ground, and so it returns to the earth and all is well. So that's going to be a fun new addition that we're going to do, which I'm excited to see how that turns out, because that'll be a good one. We're going to have to redo irrigation in here because there's irrigation running through here. The boxes will be on irrigation. They're currently on irrigation, but all that's going to have to be redone. We will be installing landscape lighting, so we're going to have electrical that has to come through here. So this is going to be a huge project for sure. Tons of logistics. Here at Creekside, we kind of figure it out as we go, right? We were talking with Andrew, who is our landscape manager. Obviously, he's going to play a huge role in this project as well. And so we were talking with him about the whole look of it and how we're doing it. And we're just going to figure it out as we go, right? We are not the kind of people that I can say the pad is going to be X feet by X feet. If the wall's going to be so tall, it's going to run this length. Nope, we're going to figure it out as we go. We have a rough idea. We're going to go ahead and we've done measurements. We're going to get the block ordered and all of that so that we have those products to go ahead and start the project with. But that's just kind of how we roll here around Creekside. We just kind of figure it out as we go, and the design flows from what the space tells us. So it is going to be really fun. So I think what we're going to do today, the main goal is to get the deck boxes out, and probably I would think the unique stone urns as well. So I have to move those to a safe location until the whole project's done, and then they'll return back. But yeah, so you're just going to kind of come along with us. We're going to see where the day goes. It is early in the morning. Try to get out here before the sun was too crazy out here. And so Jerry and Andrew will be joining us at some point. I will bring you along for the whole ride, and we're just going to see what gets done today. But it's going to be a great project, fun project, massive project, but I cannot wait to see how this space transforms in the next coming couple of months. My friends, we're done with step one. Step one demo of the new garden box, garden, I don't even know, we gotta figure out what we're gonna call this area. Like, we gotta have a project name. We're done. It's lunchtime and we got exactly accomplished what we wanted to get done for today. So let's just do a quick little recap and we'll talk about the whole little project once again. Basically, all of the boxes have been removed. The vast majority of the soil has been removed. The rocks, the bigger rocks, the little pea gravel, a lot of that is still in there. That'll just become part of, you know, the base. That's no big deal. Got all the metal edging out. And so very, very productive morning for sure. That is where having all the right equipment makes a huge, massive difference, because if we were having to do this by hand, it would definitely be quite the challenge. So we are definitely blessed in the fact that we own a nursery and landscaping and have all this equipment that we can do all of this ourselves. So the reason that we're just getting this part done for today is because Jerry and I are going to be out of town off and on for the next like 2 weeks with business trips. And y'all know the summer storms, right? It can be absolutely sunny and gorgeous, and then all of a sudden this massive summer thunderstorm pops up and you just have a gully washer. And we don't want a gully washer right now. I don't want to have, you know, massive amounts of exposed soil. This is enough. He was trying not to dig too far into the bank right here because obviously this is where that red clay starts. Everything above this has that nice thick mulch on it. So if we do get rain, it would just be that, you know, possibly this part is going to be where the mud and the mess actually happens. So that is, yeah, that is really good. Working together, we had Jackson out here, we had Andrew, Jerry, myself. I was doing more of the filming because with the machines, it's just let the machines do the work. We were looking afterwards, once, you know, things get out of the space, it makes it easier to see the space a little bit. And so with the retaining wall that comes behind the garden, I told the boys yesterday, and I said, there's 2 plants in here. If we can just not mess up or have to move, well, I guess there's 3 total, but one being this Amsonia. And so we will have, you know, that retaining wall that comes in front of it. So they said that shouldn't be a problem at all, that this Amsonia can stay and she is okay. And then the lemon meringue Baptisia, because remember, what, a couple weeks ago, I showed you that I pruned back both the lemon meringue and the Amsonia, and you can see how nice and thick and beautiful they are. So that pruning really helped. Jerry and Andrew were really impressed with how big this lemon meringue Baptisia is. And I said, well, you should have seen it before I trimmed it. So the good thing is that I think we're going to be okay with the Baptisia and not have to worry about moving it. And why do I not want to move Baptisia? Well, Baptisia historically has very long, deep tap roots. And this one has been here since the inception of the flower bed. So it's been here 6 years. So I can only imagine what the root system is on this thing. And the thought is, because the roots are so deep, they're not out, they're deep, is that you would never be able to get truly enough of the root system. So more than likely, if we tried to move this, we would lose it. Like, it wouldn't survive the move. So I was like, if we can just please not move this one, it would be great. So the good news is because we're gonna square up the wall, all the walls, like this wall particular, and moving forward, and the boxes, we're gonna square them up with the concrete pad. So because the concrete pad obviously is square with the house. So when we come back from this perspective, the wall that will be right here will be even with the wall here, I mean the concrete here. So they'll be the same distance from, like, say, the concrete to this wall, and then the same thing on the other end. So we're going to use that concrete pad as a guide as far as squaring up this retaining wall. And so looking at it, Jerry and Andrew said, you know, I don't think we're going to have to start, like, I'm actually going to gain space in the cottage garden and not lose space. So they're thinking that the wall will come somewhere about like right here. And so we actually gain a couple of feet right here, which will be absolutely fantastic. The reason that they're thinking that is because I told you, well, let's go this way. I told you that the steps, we're gonna redo the steps. They're gonna be in the exact same spot that the current steps are in. But when 6 years ago, when we were doing this, we did not gauge the measurements of the steps correct. So where you have, you know, it's nice and even as far as how it goes up, it was that last step was extra high. So we're actually going to keep them, the size and the style and the shape the same as this. Obviously with pavers, you know, like I said, there'll be little retaining walls on each side coming up here, but on this area right here, there'll be one more additional step. So when we push that back, then the retaining walls will tie in. So you'll have the steps here, 90-degree angle, and then the retaining wall that way, and same thing on this side. So we're actually gonna gain some space in here because, remember, we're pushing the whole garden back. So all of that will be pushed back, and lots of room in here for the 5 garden boxes, and then whatever else I may want to put in here. You know, time will tell. Now I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the elephant in the room here a little bit, because I know, even though I told you ahead of time, I know that some of you probably had heart attacks while I'm just going to take a seat, if you don't mind. I'm just going to sit here on my little bench so we can have a little chit chat. So I told you that we were taking all the stuff out of the garden boxes, right? We weren't going to try to save any of that. The tomatoes were volunteers from last year. The zinnias were volunteers from seed from last year, so they self-sowed. And it was funny because when Jerry was getting ready to do it and I had the camera on it, he was like, "Are you sure you want to film that?" He said, "The people are going to go crazy because you're cutting these beautiful, you know, getting rid of these beautiful zinnias." And I was like, "Honey, you know what? It is what it is." I did cut a lovely bouquet, so I am enjoying my zinnias. And this is the thing, y'all. So I've done YouTube and social media enough that I can anticipate some of your comments. So there was absolutely 0 point in me trying to save those zinnia plants, right? They were volunteers. They came here naturally from last year's plants. I did not sow them. I didn't do anything. They just came back on their own. We are in July in North Carolina. We have been having record-breaking temperatures. Our temperatures are in the upper 90s. Our dew points are in the mid 70s. Humidity has been hanging out, you know, normal 60, 70, not normal. So if you're not from the area and you're not from the South and you're like, "Oh, well, I have 100-degree temperatures," but you have maybe a 40-degree dew point, not the same at all. So having a 74-degree dew point that does not let go, like even at night, is just oppressive. Today is a drier day. Those plants are not going to transplant. Like if I try to dig them up and save them, they're going to die. So it's me wasting my time. The plants, you know what, for everything there is a season, and so we just move on. When we put these garden boxes back, that is my plan for these garden boxes, is that they will be predominantly cut flowers. So they will be flower boxes, and I cannot wait. So it's okay. Everything's fine. We saved some gorgeous flowers here, and everything will be fine. The next step, I guess, coming will be that we do some really good final measurements so that we make sure that we order as close to the amount of stone that we need. We will do that, and then probably when we come back from our trips, we're going to come back to this space and then cut the bank out and dig in some more, so that way we can then start getting the pad level and start thinking about building a wall. But Jerry may have other plans than that, but that's what I think the natural progression of this will be. So it's going to be fun. It is going to be a long project. Like, this is going to take us a couple of months to get done because, you know, life, right? And doing it ourselves. And so, yeah, but Chandler's actually here cutting grass today. So he's the one that's responsible for maintaining our lawn and making it look as amazing as it does. That is his baby and does that. And so we will definitely be out of here in plenty of time for him to take care of the lawn and this fall so that we have gorgeous grass going on. So yeah, that is an update here from a Creekside Nursery. As always, we so appreciate you. Y'all have an amazing day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.